There are people in this world who are committed to making a positive impact in the lives of others. These amazing individuals always put others first and serve diligently at whatever leadership roles they find themselves. It is hard to think of a reason why anyone would want to bring harm to these selfless and angelic individuals. But since we're here discussing this story, I guess you already have an idea what happened. This is the story of Eve Carson. Welcome to this channel. Today, we are going to take a look at the shocking murder of Eve Carson. Do not forget to like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel to stay notified about our latest videos. Eve Carson could easily have been described as an example of how close to perfect a student can get. Born on November 19, 1985, in Athens, Georgia, Eve was a student at Clark Central High School, where she was elected student body president and was class valedictorian. She was also a member of the school's academic team and vice president of the school's National Honor Society. Eve spent most of her time volunteering as a peer educator at the Athens Area Attention Home, a safe house for abused and runaway teenagers. She also served as a page in the U.S. House of Representatives and worked in the University of Georgia Research Laboratory as a lab assistant. Eve attended college at the University of North Carolina, where she was a political science and biology major. With her excellent academic status, she earned herself a membership at Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society and allowed her to be a recipient of the Morehead King Scholarship. Even during her college days, Eve continued her volunteer work by participating and leading numerous organization and service projects. She was selected to be a North Carolina Fellow and took part in a 4-year leadership development. She served in the Honor Program Executive Board as co-president and in the UNC chapter of Nourishment International as co-chairwoman. Eve was also a member of the Committee on Scholarships, Awards and Student Aid, the Academic Advising Program, the Chancellor's Committee for University Teaching Awards, the Chancellor Search Committee, UNC Chapel Hill's Board of Trustees, the Carolina Leadership Development Board, and the Athletic Council, and was an orientation counselor at freshman camp. Carson volunteered with children. She was an assistant coach for the Girls on the Run program. In addition to coaching, she taught science to elementary school students as part of UNC's Inspire program and tutored middle school students. Eve had studied abroad and traveled to several different countries. She also traveled around the U.S. engaging in various volunteer work. On the night of March 4, 2008, about a day before the gruesome murder of Eve Carson, Lawrence Alvin Lovett Jr. had called one of his friends, Jason McNeil, to drive him and his friend to Chapel Hill, where they planned to rob someone. Jason declined, causing Lovett to drive his mother's car to Chapel Hill, where he and Demario James Atwater met up and began to search for a victim. On March 5, 2008, Atwater and Lovett saw Eve walking towards her car. These monsters followed her and forced their way into her car, with Lovett finding his way into the driver's seat and Atwater staying in the back seat. Both men forced Eve into the back seat, where Atwater held her hostage at gunpoint. After repeated threats by Atwater and Lovett, Eve was scared for her life and decided to give in to their demands. The evil duo drove around with Eve to several ATMs where they would attempt to withdraw the money in her account. As at 3:55 a.m., Lovett and Atwater had succeeded in robbing Eve of $700 at an ATM in University Mall in Chapel Hall. Lovett would later tell one of his friends that Eve tried her best to reason with them, telling them that they did not have to do what they were doing. Eve also pleaded and begged Lovett and Atwater for her life, but it was to no avail, as these monsters would still end up murdering Eve in cold blood. Eve begged Lovett and Atwater to spare her life, telling them that they could take whatever they wanted, and they did not have to kill her. Sadly, all her pleas were in vain, as the duo had already made up their minds that they were going to take her life, possibly because she had seen their faces and could probably recognize and identify them, and Lovett and Atwater were not willing to take that chance. They took Eve to a densely wooded neighborhood about a mile from the UNC to murder her. Eve soon realized that Lovett and Atwater had made their minds up and that they were going to kill her, and despite the turmoil she must have felt, she asked her captors to pray with her. Lovett and Atwater shot Eve 5 times. She suffered shots to her right shoulder, right upper arm, right buttock, and right cheek, and the murder weapon was discovered to be a .24 caliber handgun. During her autopsy, the doctors found blood in her lungs indicating she was still alive and breathing after being shot multiple times with a handgun. The 5th and fatal shot she suffered was discovered to have been from a saw-off, 12-gauge shotgun. The bullet from the gun went through Eve's right hand as she tried to shield herself and then entered her right temple and brain. According to forensic psychologist and criminal profiler, he said that how Eve was shot showed a complete lack of regard for human life. Eve's body was found at approximately 5 a.m. about 2 hours after the incident at an intersection between Hillcrest Circle and Hillcrest Road when police responded to reports of gunshots from a woman who lived around the area. The witness later testified that she had heard a gunshot followed by the voice of a woman scream and then 3 more gunshots in rapid successions. Eve's body was found tilted on her left hip with her right arm bent behind her head. Her body was later identified by her roommate. Most of the records, such as autopsy reports and warrants, kept concerning the case were sealed off from the public for months after the murder until June 27, 2008, when some information was released. From the information gathered from the warrants, it was confirmed that the sum of $1,400 was withdrawn from the ATMs using Eve's card over a 2-day period after the shooting. It also revealed Atwater admitting to being the suspect who attempted to use the ATM card in a security video taken in a local convenience store, and that Lovett was indeed the person captured in the photograph. On March 12, 2008, charges of first-degree murder were filed against Demario James Atwater, who was 21 years old at the time. Lawrence Alvin Lovett, who was 17 years at the time, was also arrested and similarly charged the following day. Lovett previously had a criminal record for drug possession, larceny, breaking and entering, and felony possession of a firearm. He was also on probation for breaking into a house. Atwater had previously been convicted of several crimes, including possession of marijuana with intent to sell, trespassing, robbery, and assault. In February 2005, he received 3 years probation after being convicted of breaking into a home. In June 2006, a police officer investigating a burglary confiscated a handgun from him. Atwater pleaded guilty to possessing a firearm while on probation and was sentenced to more time on probation. On July 7, 2008, both suspects were indicted on additional charges of first-degree kidnapping and armed robbery along with felonious larceny and felonious stolen goods. According to a confidential informant, which was later revealed to be prosecution witness and friend of Lovett, Jason McNeil, both Lovett and Atwater had shot Eve. According to the confession given by Lovett, Eve was still alive and moving after being shot several times with a handgun. Atwater then stood over her and shot her again, putting an end to the victim's life. In October 2008, Atwater was indicted by a federal grand jury on 1 count of carjacking and 3 firearm charges. The carjacking resulting in death carried a possible death penalty, but the perpetrator was below 18 at that time, so he could not face the death penalty. In exchange for the state prosecutor not to pursue the death penalty, Atwater pled guilty to the charges leveled against him. He was sentenced to life in prison for the murder charge and an additional 23 to 29 years concurrent sentence for the additional charges. During the sentencing hearing, Atwater turned to Eve's parents and said, "I'm sorry for everything that's happened. No matter what the court did today, it would be far from anything I should receive." Atwater is currently serving his sentence at the Federal State Penitentiary in California. Lovett, on the other hand, pled not guilty to the charges leveled against him. He remained in custody until his trial started on December 6, 2011. Lovett was found guilty of all charges on December 11, 2011. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Levet is currently serving his sentence at Neuse Correctional Institution. Since his sentencing, Levet has been transferred several times and has committed several infractions while incarcerated. The murder of Eve Carson at the hands of two troubled young men brought an untimely end to a very promising life. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the friends and family of Eve Carson as we remember the sad end of Eve Carson. Thanks for watching. Feel free to share your thoughts on this story in the comments. And please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe if you found this video enjoyable. Thank you once again, and see you in the next video.